We spent 6 days hiking the Marangu Route up Mount Kilimanjaro with Intrepid. Here's what it was like. First, meet our guides. Joshua, the leader of our group. Eric, our supporting guide. Vindalin, another supporting guide. And reppin' for the girls, Asafiwe, who goes by Makiri. Day 1 of our hike up Mount Kilimanjaro started with us getting our duffel bags weighed to make sure they were not over 9 kgs. This is for the safety of the porters, and honestly, you don't need more than 9 kgs. Our group of 7 hikers got onto the shuttle bus and rode for about 40 minutes from Moshi to Kilimanjaro National Park, where we registered ourselves, got our packed lunches from the chef, and hit the trail. Day 1 had us hiking on trail through rainforest for 8 kilometers, gaining approximately 1,000 meters of elevation. We made it finally to Marangu Hut. We checked into our huts, which were basic rooms featuring 2 sets of bunk beds. One of our porters brought us hot water in basins to sort of shower off with, and then we enjoyed hot drinks and popcorn before dinner and a briefing that laid out the next day's hiking plan. We also had our oxygen levels monitored to make sure everyone was feeling great. Day 2 started from Marangu Hut and saw us trek all the way to Horombo Hut. Everyone's spirits were higher than usual though, because it was Eric's birthday, and apparently it's tradition in Tanzania to throw water on the birthday person. Sorry, Eric. It was all right though. He dried off very quickly because we had plenty of sun exposure as we hiked through moorland on our second day. After 8 hours of hiking, I saw the tiny little cabin roofs and I knew we had made it to Horombo Hut, which is located 3,700 meters up. Horombo Hut became our team's little home on the mountain. It was my favorite of the huts that we stayed in because the views were amazing and you could see Kilimanjaro the whole time. The hut setups were the same as at Marangu Hut, 2 sets of bunk beds in a room. Our chefs once again treated us too well, and we had our nightly popcorn before a delicious vegetarian-friendly dinner. I stepped outside of the dining hall though when I saw the cloud inversions because the sunsets at Horombo Hut were just so unreal. Day 3 of our 6-day hike was an acclimatization day. So after a decadent breakfast, we're talking omelets, we're talking pancakes, nom nom nom. We headed out on an acclimatization hike to Zebra Rock. At this point on the trek, we were higher up than I had been previously in Nepal at Annapurna Base Camp, but luckily I wasn't feeling any side effects of altitude yet. The mini hike to Zebra Rock on day 3 was a test for our guides to assess our breathing, see how we were moving, and just generally getting a sense of how we were feeling that high up. Luckily, we were all feeling fantastic, so we headed back down to Horombo Hut where our spectacular chefs were busy making us an early dinner. One of my favorite things to do each night before dinner on the trail was to visit the kitchen. The chefs and porters were always making me laugh, and I even got to try my hand at making mandazi, which is a Tanzanian fry bread that is so delicious. These moments in the little crammed kitchens are some of my favorite from the mountain because it really allowed me to get to know the people who were supporting us on our hike up the mountain. After dinner on day 3, we were given a big safety briefing outlining summit push and the next day's hiking. And then it was an early night because the next day was the big one. Day 4 started like any other. Coffee brought to us in our rooms, a hot camp shower and water basins, a big breakfast, and then us purifying our drinking water. While the day started like the rest, it was far, far from it. After 5 to 6 hours of hiking, we made it to Kibo Hut, 4,750 meters up. This hut was much more basic, with drop toilets in a block outside and rooms with nearly 20 bunk beds. After arriving at Kibo, we were served an early pasta dinner around 5 p.m. Then we were told to try and get sleep. However, a few hours later at 10:45 p.m., we were woken up with hot porridge and tea. Our day packs were checked to make sure we brought everything we needed and no extra weight. And then at 11:45 p.m., yes, the very same day we had hiked up to Kibo, we began our official summit push. Most of the push is done in the dead of night with only a headlamp to guide your way. We stopped at Hansmeyer Cave for a health check before proceeding. This is where things took a dive for me. I started to feel very nauseous, and then my anxiety about feeling nauseous made my breathing very shallow. I was motivated by the sunrise to push through and was carefully monitored by one of our summit guides. All of the physical effort was well worth it because at around 8 a.m. we finally reached Uhuru Peak, the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, the tallest freestanding mountain in the world and the tallest mountain on the African continent. I could not have been more proud of both Luke and I, but neither one of us could have made it to summit without the Intrepid team. Since we technically summited Mount Kilimanjaro on day 5, we still had a very long day ahead of us. Tired and battling altitude sickness symptoms, our group headed down past Kili's mini glaciers to Horombo Hut before we had to prepare ourselves to go all the way back down to Horombo Hut on the same day as the summit. On the first part of our descent down to Horombo Hut, we were essentially sliding down volcanic scree. It was almost like we were skiing, but instead of snow, it was volcanic rock underneath us. Once everyone from our group had made it back to Horombo Hut, we had about an hour to sleep before we were woken up with a giant brunch. Unfortunately, most of us had lost our appetite, which is a common side effect of altitude sickness. We packed our bags, strapped on our boots, and hiked through the desert back to Horombo Hut. We made it to Horombo Hut in time for dinner and a beautiful sunset. I don't think what we had accomplished had sunken in yet, but we had one big final day ahead of us, so we all headed to bed early. On the 6th and final day of our Kilimanjaro hike, we trekked 21 kilometers, starting at Horombo Hut and making it all the way back to Kilimanjaro National Park gates where we first started. There, we were greeted by our team of unbelievable porters and indulged in yet another fantastic lunch. This time we were even treated with sodas, which felt like such luxury. To cap off our final day, the entire Intrepid team sang traditional Swahili songs for us, and I've got to say I got a bit teary-eyed. I really had the time of my life on this Intrepid adventure.